Okay. Yeah. Hi, we are Team ARTVERC. We will maybe explain the name of the team later on. So we started with this picture that was found by Samir to remind ourselves of what we were here for, actually. So if you look at Africa and healthcare, then we are actually faced with a medical system in disarray, and people go to traditional healers, or they self-medicate. And so what we were thinking of is doing something structurally. Oh, there's something wrong with the slides. Um, yeah, okay. So, but yeah, so what if we look at what is already in place? We have the World Health Organization, and in order to fight drug resistance, they've come up with guidelines for treatment, and we see that these guidelines are implemented by national governments. Now, so they can provide. You can provide adaptation best practices all you want, but if they're not being followed up, then you have a big problem. So in the national guidelines database that is online, we see that the guidelines that have been collected so far date back to 2005 and 2011. So that's almost 7 or 8 years ago. So currently, what we see is that in the workflow, you have the World Health Organization guidelines, then you have, well, best practices, and then you have the national guidelines. The problem is here that as soon as something gets fixed in, sorry, it's my wife. So as soon as something gets locked in legislation, it's stuck over there, and it's very difficult to change all that. And more importantly, whenever something is stuck in there, and the guidelines are fixed, then this affects the people that take their medication immensely. So what is missing, according to us, is a monitoring system. So if you have guidelines and you want to implement them in national governments, the problem is that they're committed, but you can have all the adaptation best practices that you want. If you do not follow up on them, you can have in the long term mismatches, which will render your anti-drug resistance policies ineffective. So what we want to do is we want to work on the policy level to have maximum impact. And so what we propose is that we have some monitoring of the guidelines that are being implemented in the national government. So what you want to do is you want to have a guideline and have a system in place that warns you whenever something is outdated or whenever there are discrepancies. So what we want to do is we start from the guidelines that are present in the WHO documents, and then we want to inventorize everything which is available in national gazettes, national consolidated legislation, and also in the preparatory parliamentary work that is being done and is recorded in the parliamentary proceedings. So yeah, again, you should see normally a screenshot here of an application where you, as if you're a public servant, what you want to do, what you want to see is you want, of course, first of all, you want to know that something is lacking in your legislation. And if you run a query on that, you want to know that something is missing. So what we want to do is we want to build this application for the following people. So we want to work on the policy making level, and we want to make sure that the people that are there, so the World Health Organization people that are in legislation and people that are involved in healthcare policy making have the instrument to follow up on these guidelines. And also the people working in NGOs, because eventually they'll be affecting the strategy. So how do we want to do this? We consider this, or we will frame this as a traditional text mining problem. and there we discern the haystack and the needle. In the haystack, what we will be doing there, and we've done that during the last 2 days, we are going to reconstruct the national documents. So they're out there in the wild in the form of scanned documents, so they're not machine readable. And so what we will be doing, sorry? Okay, so and how we will do this? We will use modern state-of-the-art embedding spaces techniques, and then there is this last how we want to do this. We believe that the software that is going to put there that it is best suited for grassroots development. If we can convince people at a local level to use it by making it as accessible as possible, then we believe that it stands a chance of growing a community. In terms of sustainability and deployment, the system as we see it will allow for added value services. For example, it's if we are scraping all and inventorizing all of the legal data, you can imagine that this is useful for legal practitioners, and they could co-fund the upkeeping of the infrastructure. That's it. Thank you. Questions? Yeah.
Just one question. How do you relate this with HIV drug resistance?
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. So we believe that this is a concerted effort. So if you want to ensure that everyone is on the same page, is following the same guidelines, then you stand a better chance of preventing drug resistance. And to do that, in Europe, we would come up with a interoperability system so everyone is on the same page. But in Africa, that's unfortunately not the case. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that all the guidelines are being aligned. And currently, we're working with the things that we have. So we collect all the data and we just mine it. And the idea is to notify people in time. Excellent. Well done. Thank you.